So with that, I was thinking, I said, well, wait a minute. I said, well, wait. I said, okay. I said, we got all those things, and that's all you turn the TV on now, and that's all you hear about now. Coronavirus. And I guarantee you there's going to be a lot of messages today about the coronavirus. This ain't one of them.
Amen. That's good. That's really good.
I'm here to tell you, this is not going to be about the coronavirus. However, to talk about today we're going to deal with some things on today, because everything that's happened, there's nothing new under the sun.
That's good. Right.
There is nothing new. So we give it a name. We give all these things, all these big names that we can't pronounce. This is what we do in the world today. We give all these big names. And when we start looking at it biblically, they had simple names. It's like they used to tell you about, says, okay, a plague is coming. And it's like, there was a plague of death. It was simple. But we'll give it something else. We'll give it some long term we can't even pronounce. Most of us can't. It's this, and then we'll shorten it up and everything, and we'll put it in a box that this is what it is. And you sit there and you wonder, it's like, okay, how do we come up with all this, a word this big, and now we want to shorten it down to this, and in a few minutes you're going to forget about, what do they call it now? That's why they shorten it, so you remember what it is. Amen. All right. So I'm gonna give you a couple of things before I actually get into the main message here, and what I want you to understand is this, because see, the Bible tells us how to deal with everything, and see, that's the thing that's going on right now. See, we don't understand. See, we got a lot of folks, and see, one of the things we have to understand this is proving who's real with God and who isn't. I ain't coming to church today because I'm afraid to get sick. When you get a cold, you get the flu. When you were little, you got sick. Did that stop you? When you were a child and stuff, when your folks went to church and stuff, they didn't say like, oh, you get to stay at home. Like, no, he said you better come on here. Said it's the hospital. We'll take you to the hospital. The house. It's the hospital. All right?
That's good.
All right. So I was, and one of the things I want to say, because I had a whole different message prepared for this, for today. And the other night, and my wife can attest to this, something happened, never happened to me ever before. I was just about asleep. And there was a well-known preacher. He's doing a video talking about everything that's going on. And in the middle of something he said, and I couldn't tell you what it was, put me out of dead sleep when I had to jump out of bed. Because the Lord gave me the word for today. And sometimes, because when we study and everything, we think, okay, we got it down, we got this, got that. And I was just talking to this brother the other day, and so I said, we get a message together and everything, you think you got it all down, then God changes the message. That's what happened. All right. So, in the Old Testament, in the book of Exodus, I don't want you to go there, but I want you to realize something here. I want you to think about this. In the book of Exodus, when Moses went down to get the children of Israel out of Egypt, God had some things happen. He sent plagues. Now, there's millions of folks there that Moses has to go get out. But the Lord sent plagues. And he told them exactly what those plagues were. Now, we didn't classify them as plagues. God classified them as plagues. He sent them there. Said, okay, I'm going to do this. But the one I want you to pay attention to was the last one. The last one says this. He simply said, I'm going to walk in the city and take the firstborn. I'm going to do this. But then once he gives Moses this whole instruction, then he gives him the next instruction, so this is what you need to do. when I come through. Before I get there, you need to kill a lamb and mark the door. That was the protection from the plague that he was bringing, the plague of death. He says, okay, I want you to give instructions on what to do. Blood of the lamb on your door post, on the post. Because I see, if it gets seen, when I see it, walk right by. If you didn't have it, I'm going to come in and I'm going to kill that firstborn. That's in the Bible. So if you had it, your child was spared. And so what are you talking about? How does this relate to what's going on? Yeah, folks were scared, but folks were obedient too. To God. It didn't matter what Pharaoh said. It mattered what God said. But I just wanted to share that part with you. And then on the flip side of that, in the Bible tells us what to do when certain things come up. Before I go, let me say a word of prayer real quick. Father, in the name of Jesus, I thank you for this opportunity that you have given me on this day, Lord. Lord, I ask that you anoint this word, give the hearers an ear to hear, a mind to retain, a heart to receive. Bless your people, Lord. Heal your people, Lord. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. So over in the book of James, I'm still not into my message yet, but I'm gonna share something with you. Because see, we're living in a world of fear right now. And in James chapter 5, it talks about, it asks a question. Verse 13 asks a question. It says, is any among you afflicted? Let him pray. Is any merry? Let him sing songs. The 14 says, is any sick among you? Now, it didn't say, okay, hold on a minute. It says, let him call for the elders of the church and let him pray over him, anointing him with oil in the name of the Lord. And the prayer of faith shall save the sick, and the Lord shall raise him up. And if he have committed sins, they shall be forgiven him. It does not say, stay home.
That's good.
It does not say, run and hide from anybody. It does not say, okay, I got to go run, blanket up, go run out here and go do these things. And says, when the church doors are open, I'm not coming. Because of what man said. God says, come to the house. If you are sick, come here.
That's good.
And call for the elders of the church and let them pray over you. That's what the word says. So it doesn't matter what anybody say. You get in the media, they talk about all this stuff, talking about, well, you all need to do this because we don't want to infect. I said, look, you look at all through the Bible, Jesus walked through folks who are sick. Every day. And you not once hear him talking about he fell out. Moses delivered the people out of Egypt. You don't hear him talk about he once fell out. You don't read that. Anything that God was in the midst of, you don't hear about anybody talking about anybody falling out. Didn't want to do it. Well, Moses had an issue at the beginning. But once he understood what he was doing, you didn't hear him talk about, I ain't going to do this because, the Lord told me. All right? Go to 1 Samuel chapter 17. Now I get to give you what God gave me the other night. Because a lot of times we don't understand things, and we have to start looking at things in the spirit realm and not in the physical. Because in the physical, you could say a lot of things. Or it's like a term when somebody says, I'm going to knock you out. They're physically not going to knock you out, but in their mind they have. But not even touched you. Because some folks know better. Amen. we're going to talk a little bit about David today. But more importantly, it's the situation that's going on here and how David applies and how it applies to us. All right. 1 Samuel 17, we're going to start verse 2. And it says, "And Saul and the men of Israel were gathered together and pitched in the valley of Elah, and set the battle in array against the Philistines. And the Philistines stood on a mountain on the other side, and Israel stood on a mountain on the other side, on one side and one on the other side. And there was a valley in between him. And there went out a champion out of the camp of the Philistines, named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span," which means he was about 8 feet and some change. "He had a helmet of brass upon his head, and he was armed with a coat of mail, and the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of brass." It's very heavy. "And he had greaves of brass upon his legs, and a target of brass between his shoulders. And the staff of his spear was like a weaver's beam, and his spear's head weighed 600 shekels of iron. And one bearing a shield went before him. And he stood and cried unto the armies of Israel, and said unto them, Why are ye come out to set your battle in array? Am I not a Philistine, and ye servants to Saul? Choose you a man for you, and let him come down to me. And if he be able to fight with me and kill me, then will we be your servants. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then ye shall be our servants, and serve us. And the Philistine said, I defy the armies of Israel this day. Give me a man, that we may fight together. And when Saul and all of Israel heard those words of the Philistine, they were dismayed and greatly afraid." Stop there for a moment. One man. And my topic today would be, I'm coming out.
Amen.
One man held an army back. They were afraid of Goliath. What's going on now? Goliath is in the land. Why would I say that? Because you got a lot of folks, everybody afraid. They're afraid just simply of Goliath's appearance. Big man, big tall guy, he has all this stuff. And he's sitting there and he's talking trash to everybody. He's talking a lot of mess right now. And he's just standing there saying, one of y'all come on out here and says, take me one-on-one. I dare you. And see, even the king, Saul, was afraid. He's got a whole army. I don't know, it's probably about 30,000 men standing there. But you're afraid of one man. You're afraid. And for what reason? Everybody wants to know, what's afraid? Okay? Let's move on. Go down to verse 23. Now, in between this time, David shows up. His father sent him to the battlefield because 3 of his older brothers were there in the battle, and his father sent him some food to go feed the soldiers. Now David's here. David is the youngest of 8. Now he's there. Verse 23 says, he had already saluted his brethren, he talked to everybody, and he says, and as he talked with them, behold, there was a champion of the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, out of the armies of the Philistines, and spake according to the same words, and David heard them. So all this time, Goliath is still talking. And all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him, and they were so afraid. Go down to 28. Because, see, sometimes in the middle of things, see, folks always got something to say to you when you're there on a mission. When God's got you on a mission, somebody's always got something to say. And what happens here, David's own brother has something to say to him, because David's like, okay, he's just a man. What's the big deal? Because, see, David didn't have that military mindset. David was just like, okay, I see a man, he's big. What's the problem? What's the problem? That's all I see. All right. So, verse 28 says this, and Eliab, his eldest brother, heard when he spake unto the men, and Eliab's anger was kindled against David, and he said, why camest down hither, and with whom hast thou left whose few sheep in the wilderness? So now he's kind of challenging David and not understanding. David was sent there by his father. But see, now his brother is upset because David is talking, but see, David's not understanding, because see, sometimes, see, you got all this stuff in your mind and everything. Sometimes somebody's going to come there and say, okay, I'm going to call it as I see it. I don't need all this other junk going around. I just call it as I see it. And that's what David has done. His brother's now mad at him, says, okay, who sent you here anyway? Who sent you here? Now, let's look at it this way. He's the youngest. Now, he wouldn't have been there if his dad hadn't sent him there with food. Now, see, if his brother had stood there long enough to understand the fact that, okay, my father sent my brother here with some food. But see, he wasn't doing that. He said, because David got into something else, started asking questions, and he didn't like that. He said, okay, well, what's going on? Why are you here anyway? See, that's what we do. Why are you here? See, when God sends somebody in your midst, the first question we start asking is, why are you here? And not understanding God was the one that sent that person there. The same thing, David, everything, although his father sent them, but we don't understand. But see, we don't understand. The Father in heaven sent him in that time, in that place, to do what he was about to do. All right. So he has this little debate with his brother. 29 says, and David says, what have I now done? Is there not a cause? Okay, is there a reason why you're just going crazy on me right now? I said, I'm just here. He's a young man, and you know young men have curiosity. What's going on? Why is that guy standing out there in the middle of the field and everything, and why y'all up here scared? And I guarantee you, if you had a young child in here right now, or any place you go, you'll find a young child, their curiosity is like, they don't understand the magnitude of things, but they're willing to ask questions about things. Why is that man standing out there in the middle of nowhere? Why y'all sitting back here looking at that man? Who is he? You know, I'm looking, I said, okay, there's 30,000 of y'all, and there's just one man down there. What gives? Why ain't y'all go down there and do something about that? Nobody wants to tell them they're scared. All right. Verse 32. Because the conversation, David had caused a ruckus that the king heard him. 32. And David said to Saul, let no man's heart fail him because of him. Thy servant will go and fight with this Philistine. This is David telling the king this now. And Saul said unto David, thou art not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for thou art but a youth, and he a man of war from his youth. And David said unto Saul, thy servant kept thy father's sheep. And there came a lion and a bear, and took a lamb out of the flock. And I went out after him, and smote him, and delivered it out of his mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard, and smote him, and slew him. Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear. And this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing he hath defied the armies of the living God. See, David understood what was going on. See, David had a mindset that sit there and look, says, wait a minute, says, y'all don't understand who y'all are and whose you are. Says, you are the army of the living God. And it's like fear had crept in, and they forgot suddenly why they were there and who had sent them there. All right. So David said, 37, moreover, the Lord that delivered me out of the paw of the lion and out of the paw of the bear, he will deliver me out of the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said unto David, go, and the Lord be with thee. All right, skip down to 40. Here's where it gets interesting. Because this is something, look what David does here. David said, okay, it says, because he couldn't put on Saul's armor because he was too small. And you know, the only thing about armor was fitted to the person. It was fitted to the individual. So like everybody in there had armor, it fits you differently. So it was tailored to you differently. That's why David couldn't pick up his sword. The armor was too big. If you read about Saul was a big guy. So his armor could not fit David. So look what David did. He's like, he improvised. And it says in 40, it says, and he took his staff in his hand and chose him 5 smooth stones out of the brook. All right, so here's what I want you to understand about the number 5. It stands for grace. And put them in the shepherd's bag, which he had even in a scrip, and his sling was in his hand, and he drew near to the Philistine. And the Philistine came to and drew near unto David, and the man that bare the shield went before him. Now the man went before him, which you call his armor bearer. So, you know, every great soldier or champion, they had an armor bearer. Person carried a shield and all this wonderful stuff. 42. And when the Philistine looked about and saw David, he disdained him, for he was but a youth and a ruddy and of fair countenance. And the Philistine said unto David, am I a dog that thou comest to me with staves? And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. And the Philistine said to David, come to me, and I will give thy flesh unto the fowls of the air and to the beasts of the field. Then said David to the Philistine, thou comest to me with a sword and with a spear and with a shield, but I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied. This day the Lord delivered thee into my hand, and I will smite thee and take thine head from thee. And I will give the carcasses of the host of the Philistines this day unto the fowls of the air, and when the wild beasts of the earth, to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. And all this assembly shall know that the Lord saveth not with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands. And it came to pass, when the Philistine arose, that he came and drew nigh to meet David, that David hasted and ran towards the army to meet the Philistine. And David put his hand in his bag, took thence a stone, and slang it, and smote the Philistine in his forehead. That stone sunk into his forehead, and he fell upon his face to the earth. They fell face first. So David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and with a stone, and smote the Philistine and slew him. But there was no sword in the hand of David. Therefore David ran and stood up on the Philistine, and took his sword and drew it out of the sheath thereof, and slew him, and cut off his head therewith. And when the Philistines saw that their champion was dead, they fled. Goliath is in the land right now. And a lot of people are scared of Goliath. Goliath is in the room, but we are afraid of Goliath. Because a lot of us have forgotten who sent us. See, we're children of God. And see, a lot of us have forgotten that we are children of God. Because there's a lot of things God has taught us. God has taught us how to deal with things, how to deal with sickness, how to deal with things, spiritual things. He's taught us how to just things in everyday life. God didn't give us a spirit of fear. Didn't give us that. But we're acting in fear now. And like I said, I told you this wasn't a message about nobody's virus. It's not about that, because you have to see this spiritually. Spiritually, there was a Goliath in the land, and Goliath got people panicking because, see, there is nobody right now that can tell you why there's no toilet paper in the store.
Jesus.
This is coming. Just like the soldiers did when they saw Goliath. All he did was speak a few words. Everybody was afraid. Oh my goodness. Why? You know, when you were younger and stuff, when we were younger and everything, we were trying to feel ourselves and everything, we used to talk trash to everybody. We just used to talk and everything. But at some point, you would always meet somebody that would take you up on what you were saying, that was going to shut you up. Or the fact that you knew you needed to shut up because you knew what was going to happen.
That's right.
And see, in this case, Goliath met David, and David shut him up. But see, nobody in the Philistines believed that no one's going to defeat Goliath. No one's going to ever shut him up because he's our champion. You know, we boost him up and everything. We'll just send him out. We got the army still standing up here. We'll send him out. I said, because why? He instills fear in everybody. They'll be scared and they'll just give up. And they'll just everybody be our slaves and everything. We'll just be a slave to our system. And see, God sent David to remind everybody. He says, look. And that's why God says, okay, who are y'all again? But see, it took him when he walked out face to face with Goliath for everybody to understand what it was. It says, okay, you fight against an army against the living God. You have mocked him. You have cursed him. So now you must die. I was just laughing at him like, yeah, who are you? You some, see, and the thing about it is, God will always take somebody we consider a nobody and make them somebody. He used David. David was a nobody. David was the youngest of his brothers. But it was the youngest that understood what God wanted. He shows up and he comes out just like, okay, why are y'all standing around? Why y'all just standing around? There's a war going on. I said, why are you standing around? This man standing out in the middle of the valley talking. Why are y'all standing around? Because the fact, although he didn't tell them that they were afraid, he knew that they were afraid. But nobody, because everybody's mumbling between themselves, what do we do? What do we do? Well, I'm running around and everything, practically running into each other. I was like, okay, wait a minute. You guys are dressed for battle and everything. I said, this is just one guy. I said, yeah, he's tall. He's this, he's that. Yeah, he has a reputation before him. But you got one thing on your side that he doesn't.
That's right.
One. The most important thing that you have on your side, you're not exercising. Because you got God on your side.
That's right.
All you had to do was sit there and turn around and say, Lord, what do I do? That's all you got to do. Lord, what do I do in this situation? It says, this is here. Lord, what do we do? That's all he had to ask. Nope. No one was about to ask that question. So what did the Lord do? He said, okay, I'm going to send somebody to solve this for you. And I'm going to prove to you that I can use somebody who's a nobody to defeat somebody who thinks they're somebody. And see, with all this that's going around in the world and everything, everybody just wants everybody to run in panic. I want y'all to stay at home. The enemy's doing his job. And he's like, okay, I got service all shut up and everything. I'm going to be praising God today. You know why? Because y'all scared. And I know I got y'all scared. I got y'all right now. Right now, y'all in line at Costco. With your cart and everything, miserable. Your face all drawn up and everything, like, You walk in there looking for stuff and everything, you're all drawn up. And some of them same folks said, I should have went to church today. Yeah, you should have. Because your answer is right here. It's not in the line at Costco, Sam's Club, Walmart, any of them stores. You're not going to get your healing right there. You can get all the cough syrup you want and everything. Well, they said we should do this. I said, well, look, wait a minute. I said, isn't that basic stuff? Wash your hands. Well, if they're dirty, wash them. Do you need somebody to tell you that? Do you need some official instruction? Well, this is what you should do. When you cough, cover your mouth. When you sneeze, cover your mouth. You need somebody to tell you that. It's simple stuff. It's the same thing. This is your hospital. But we don't want to treat it like, no. I'm going to go to the other hospital. I'm going to try to go there. Well, I'm not going. They say stay at home, so I'm staying home. And the bad thing about it is, we even have pastors that close up shop. Oh no, we're not going to do this because they said if you're this and this, we don't need to gather, because if we gather too many folks and everything, folks get sick. Folks been sick in church from day one. Folks have gotten healed in church from day one. The Bible tells us about healing from day one. So the question becomes this: are you going to sit there and let Goliath keep you away? Or are you going to come out of what he's sitting there telling you? Goliath's telling us right now, you don't need to come to church. You don't need to be here and everything. You don't need a word from God. You don't need healing from God either. No, because you go to the store and get that medicine and everything, you'd be all right. That's what he wants you to believe. That's what the enemy wants you to believe. Oh, you'll be okay. And see, what happens here is this: he done planted a seed. Now, if you hear when I did the mustard seed very small. If I held it in my hand, you wouldn't be able to see it. That's all he took a mustard seed, because I guarantee when it's all said and done, some of the same folks that have excused themselves from church won't be back. Because they've used it as an excuse, and they let the enemy fool them. They let the Goliath that was sitting there in the valley scare them off. I'm not coming back to church again, because when them folks cough and everything, I'm afraid this might happen to me. Okay. There's not a person in this room right now, sitting here right now, who has not been around somebody who's been sick, somebody who's had some sort of affliction. There's not a person here that has not, but yet you're here. You're alive. You're still breathing, and you didn't panic. That's what we got to look at. Are we going to let Goliath, or are we just going to come out? Just say, okay. I said, you know what? Speak to what David did to Goliath. Says, I'm coming out. I says, I'm going to come out of this. You know why? Because I'm going to defeat you right here and right now. Because why? I stand for the true and living God. I'm making a stand right here. You're not going to scare me. There is nothing that you could tell me. Says, yeah, you may look big. You got all these muscles. You got all this stuff and everything. I know it's heavy and everything. I said, okay, you're wearing 250 pounds of gear and everything. So you're probably in the neighborhood about maybe close to 4 muscle and everything. Yeah, I know you got all that going on. I don't care. I'm making a stand. Because God said, why would I turn my back on God when God is standing here with me? God says, I am his. He did not give me a spirit of fear. That's why people couldn't understand why David did what he did. David didn't have any. David understood the Lord, because you look back at David's life, the Lord chose David. So David really didn't know what fear really was. But he's like, but he understand whose he was. Yes. Even at a young age. And see, that's what the rest of the men didn't understand. It's like, no, David understood. He understood. See, they're looking like, okay, we're going back, getting battle hardened, and we're getting ready to fight and everything. Oh, man. Almost like somebody took a pin to a balloon. I'm gonna back up now. I'm gonna back up. Now what do we do? Now what do you do? And here's David. It's like, okay, while y'all backing up, so I'm walking forward. So I said, who in charge? I know the king's in charge. I said, the king heard of it. I said, well, let me talk to you. Let me talk to you. I said, let me tell you this. What happened to me? What I did before I got here.
That's right.
Let me show you what I did before I got here. I wrestled a lion and a bear that took one of my father's lambs. I fought it with my bare hands. I didn't need a spear, sword, anything like that. I did it with these. So I'm like, okay, of course, this is nothing. This is just a man. I'm talking about a lion. Anybody who's seen a lion, whether you've been to the zoo, whatever, anybody who's seen one as big as they are, anyone who's seen a bear as big as they are, no, that's not an easy thing to do. But will you do it with your bare hands? Of course, Goliath was nothing. I'm like, well, I was like, what am I be afraid of him for? What I just went through, he's nothing. I don't care. I said, the bear is probably about as tall as him. Do I care? No. I fought the lion. I said, the lion was probably more difficult to deal with than that. The bear was more difficult than that. That's just a man. You take all that stuff off him, he's still just a man. Why are y'all afraid of him? He's just a man. And further to prove it, because God is with me, I'm going to do as God told me to do. Watch this. Walks right out there. Took them 5 stones. Like I said, 5 means grace. Took them 5 stones, but he only used 1. He only needed 1. Cracked the man right in the forehead. And then it said it sunk in his forehead. Then he dropped face first. Took the sword, cut his head off. Now everybody on the side over there was rooting Goliath on. Ooh, look at this, look at this, look at this. And when that happened, everybody's like, now believe it or not, if you drop a pin out in the middle of the field, if there's absolutely quiet, if there's dead silence, you could hear it drop. Believe it or not. So you probably couldn't hear a pin drop when that happened. Everybody's probably like, because now they were the ones on the run and afraid. See, your situation, you ain't got to sit there. I don't care what it is. See, God wants us in this time and everything, not to be afraid. Just say, I'm coming out of it. I'm coming out. It doesn't matter if you're in the situation, you're part of it, or anything. Just know the situation. Say, I'm coming out. I'm coming out because I'm a child of God. God's got my back, regardless of what goes on. I'm coming out of that. All this stuff that's going on, I'm coming out of it. It's like, well, and there are folks out there that they'll give the woe is me story. It's like, nope, I'm coming out. And I says, oh no. I says, you want to stay there, you can stay right there. But it's like Goliath is in your valley right now. Goliath's in your room right now and everything. Because why? Because you're afraid. Because you don't want to listen to what I'm telling you. But you need to understand this stuff. You're a child of God. When you're a child of God, you have nothing to fear. God's going to take care of you, take care of your back, your front, everything around you. When you walk out on faith. You say, okay, there's nothing. When I leave the house today, I'm walking on faith. That's why it's important. In this time, you make sure you pray before you walk out your house. Pray everywhere you go. Because, see, the misconception about prayer is this. It talks about your prayer closet. You can pray anywhere. It's not just your prayer closet. Pray when you're walking. Pray when you're on your job, at school, no matter what you're doing. Say a little prayer and everything. You're getting ready to walk in the door to the job. Just say, Lord, okay, Lord, protect me. Guide my mind, guide my feet, guide my words. Protect me. Protect those around me. Didn't have to be anything long drawn out. Because we're living in the thing. See, the enemy has placed a seed of fear that is out there. And see, if you buy into it and everything, you'll be sitting there just like everybody else, panicking. You don't believe me that folks are panicking? Come down 75 this morning. Y'all know where I'm going with this. Hardly nobody out in the road. Nobody. And anybody knows, you come down 75, come down here and everything, there's usually a lot of people out there, especially when you get to Plano and everything, a lot of folks out there. Hardly nobody. I'm like, what is going on? But you know what?
Mm.
You look over at the parking lot of Costco, it's packed.
Yes.
They're like, what in the world is this? So I have a habit of, I like to poke fun at certain things. So I said, everybody at the church of Costco over there.
That's right.
Lord, give me some toilet paper, and I'm praying for some towel. But that's what it is. It is what it is. Everybody's sitting in line. I'm like, just as miserable. People are frustrated and stuff. Some people are probably like, that was mine. Because Goliath is taught. They saw Goliath. They ran. It's like, okay, I'm running. This morning, we're going to get up early in the morning. Normally, I get up and get dressed and go to church and stuff. Getting ready. I'm getting dressed, going to Costco. We want to be in line. We want to be there before everybody else get there. And not understanding everybody else got the same idea you did. And you get there and everybody's like, oh man, everybody's here and everything. Might as well run in here and everything. You're elbowing your way, trying to get whatever. And for what? Because you're afraid. We're afraid. And then the moment, and there were folks that were waiting on pastors to say that we're canceling church today. We won't have service today. Because of what they said in the news, the mayor and everybody said we shouldn't congregate together. We're just not going to do it and everything because we don't want everybody to get sick. But now you got to look at it in the biblical context. Don't forget to assemble yourselves. It's the biblical context. Now the other thing I want you to understand is this. I want you to see it in this manner too. When they erected the temple in the Old Testament and everything, everybody was there. That's well over 1 million people in the temple. Now, I haven't read anywhere where it says, well, okay, you're saved, okay, you don't have to come. I haven't read that. Maybe somebody else has read that in there somewhere. But if you read in the Bible, when they erected that temple, everybody was in that temple. When they had service, everybody. Except for the few soldiers they had sitting up there being the watchmen. But everybody was deserved. So that means folks were sick. And some of the stuff they had back then, we couldn't even fathom now. See, we're panicking over this little thing and stuff. They had stuff back then. You'd be like, whoa. You had leprosy, they put you out. You weren't permitted to congregate with everybody else. They put you out of town. You get to congregate out there. But there were folks that were sick. But they understood, if I come here because the word says, I got to be here. If I got to be here because there are things that will happen in here. Not just that we hear from a word from God, but I get my healing here. I get all these things right here in the house. Just like the lady with the issue of blood in the New Testament and stuff. Only thing she said, if I can just touch the hem of his garment. She didn't say, let me push my way and stuff like Jesus. I'm here. She didn't say that. Her faith said, if I can just touch it. If I can just touch my pinky. No, I didn't say that. Just to touch that hem of that garment. I know. Oh, that's a lot of faith. And see, we're in a test of faith right now. A lot of folks, our faith's getting tested right now. Where's your faith? This woman said, if I can just touch it, she said, I can touch him, touch his garment. Because she understood, like David understood about Goliath. All I need to do is just to touch the hem. I don't need to touch a foot, toe, nothing. I don't need to touch nothing personal. I just need to just touch a piece of cloth. Because she understood. It's the same thing what's going on now. It says, no. Have that faith of a mustard seed. That's all God wants. Have that much faith at the very least. At the very least. Don't turn your back on him. Talk about fear and threaten people. You can do all this stuff. I'm coming out. I said, you know what? I'm gonna get what God gives to me and stuff. I'm going to slay you. I'm gonna destroy you because I'm coming out of this. And see, that's the attitude we need to come to. I'm coming out. I don't care what